Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I have some very exciting updates for you. Last time I was talking about applying for internships because I wanted to get some career experience outside of the PhD, so perhaps in industry, to kind of figure out what I want to do after the PhD. So I sent out 2 applications and I heard back from one of the companies, Merck, and they gave me an offer for a 6-month graduate co-op. I accepted the offer. I spoke to my advisor and she approved for me to take that 6 months off of the PhD work that I'm currently doing. It's a paid position, so I'm excited about that. While it was a little bittersweet for my advisor, she's encouraging me to consolidate all of my materials for my research so far into a manuscript for publication. So I do feel a little bit of pressure to get my work in a format to be publishable soon. So that's something that I have to be working at earnestly during this semester. Another exciting update is that I was working on a grant, the NIH F31 Fellowship, and I heard that my grant fell within the pay line, which means most likely I'll be funded. And this is good because my NSF fellowship is going to be ending next year. So my advisor would have needed to figure out how she was going to pay me and which grants to put me on. But now I have this independent fellowship that I applied for that I can potentially use to fund the rest of my PhDs. And it makes me feel a little better, especially leaving for 6 months and giving up some of my current NSF funding. I really want to talk to you today about the thesis proposal. I think it might be different from school to school and depending on the department, but essentially at Georgia Tech and Emory in the biomedical engineering department, we need to propose our thesis essentially, and this is an avenue to discuss the goals that we have for the defense, all our specific aims, etc. in a structured format. We formulate a thesis committee of about 5 professors. And the idea of this is to help ensure that the students are in the right direction in terms of their research goals and make sure that the proposal is sound for when they actually do have to defend. They have enough material and it's legit, etc. I formulated a team of 5 committee members way back in February. I went on the Georgia Tech and Emory websites in the biomedical engineering department. I looked at the professors' descriptions and the work that they're doing. And professors that, work seemed very much aligned with my own, I reached out to them and kind of had a one-on-one chat over Zoom, and presented what I'm thinking about proposing or the type of work I'm trying to be doing and getting an idea of what are their opinions, any feedback, etc. So this is a nice little exercise to do because it gives you an idea to determine whether these professors are first of all, giving you the right feedback or the feedback that you think you need to improve your project. It also gives you an idea of the professor's mindset in a sense. You don't want someone who's totally against your project, making it very hard for you to graduate. But in the same time, you do want a professor to challenge your work and make sure that you're putting out the best that you can do. So I do think you need to take some time to formulate this group of professors because you really want a well-rounded, diverse team that is able to really mold your project into something beautiful. Once I set my committee members, I thought about how long I would need to schedule my proposal. Scheduling the date applies a little bit of pressure, right? Because I feel like when you don't have a date scheduled, you put it off, you don't propose. So I was like, let me apply some pressure. So I said, 3 months. I'm giving myself 3 months to get this done. And it really, put me on edge a little bit and had me working tirelessly. So soon after scheduling your thesis proposal date, you should already have a working draft of the written thesis proposal document, right? Given that I already submitted an NIH F31 grant, which essentially forced me to write an 8-page proposal, it made this transition very easy in terms of now writing a written document of my research goals. So I really didn't do much changes to that F31 proposal. And I think that's a really good exercise before you propose your thesis to like maybe write a grant that's structured in a very similar format. You don't want to schedule the date and then still feel like you don't have enough materials or you're not sure what your specific aims are going to be. I feel like setting that date means you're in a good place, at least with the written document. So when I scheduled my thesis proposal date, I didn't start my presentation yet, but I did feel comfortable with the written work that I had. It just needed a couple edits and stuff like that. Edited my written document, and then I started working on the presentation. Now, what I did was I didn't want to start making the whole presentation, get comfortable with it, and then when I do some practice presentations, people have major edits and it's just a bunch of work. So I scheduled a practice session with my lab just so that I can get a check-in about how I'm doing in terms of, developing this presentation. And that was very helpful because I got a lot of feedback from my lab mates and realized that there were lots of things I had to change and different analyses that I could have done to better my proposal. So doing that early is good. Don't wait until weeks before the thesis proposal presentation to actually practice with other people. You can start doing that as early as possible, even when your presentation is in a very drafty form, which mine was. So I scheduled about 3 or 4 practices. I had one with my lab members, and then I scheduled one with some of my lab members and another lab that I'm collaborating with. And then I had another one with my my 2 friends, my 2 PhD friends, who is not really studying the material that I am, and my mom, because I wanted some outside output of individuals who didn't really understand or know anything about my topic, just to ensure that my presentation is easily understandable by a layman, right? You don't just want, in my case, I don't just want machine learning individuals to understand what I'm doing, but in general, if anyone from the public were to sit in on my presentation, I want to make sure I'm not boring them, at least not too much, right? And they could at least get a thing or two from the presentation, at least take something away. Typically, I meet weekly with my PhD advisor. So instead of doing more research and, conducting analyses, I decided to use these weeks leading up to the thesis proposal to edit and review my presentation. So every week I was doing different iterations of my presentation with my advisor, making sure that I have all the information in there. And yeah, I had about 30 something different iterations. I edited that presentation so many times. It was annoying as hell, but I think in the end, it really turned out to be a really nice presentation and everyone appreciated the figures, the analyses, and how thorough, the explanations were. But it took a lot of work. I'm not going to underestimate the amount of work, time, hours, and nights that I had to take to prepare for this. Something else to note is save the presentation drafts. So I have 30 different presentation drafts saved. I have 30 PowerPoints saved. And the reason for this is because you don't want to change something and then realize, shoot, I should have kept it, and then now have to think about how you're going to reformulate it. So it's easy to go between the drafts, and also sometimes technology messes up. So in one of my drafts, one of my videos weren't playing for some reason, and I was like, oh, damn it. But I could have easily gone back to the draft before, capture the video that I had, and keep going, So I will just say save your drafts in different places and save each one. Don't overwrite each one. Not just your presentation drafts you should be saving. You should also be saving your codes, your figures, back them up. You don't want any mishaps to happen close to the presentation time. And if you need to access these things, it's readily accessible and stored in multiple places.
Hey y'all, it's 11 p.m. the night before the exam. I'm feeling a little nervous, not too much, but trying to sleep, watching Love Island.
So on the day of the thesis proposal, I was kind of nervous, right? And I really needed to calm myself down because when I get too flustered, I start to mumble over my words and I kind of freeze up. And I've always had that problem growing up, especially with public speaking. I get very, very nervous and, I don't do as well as I would like to. So calming myself down was very much key, just like I did in the qualifying exam. It's very difficult to do so, but something that worked for me this time I played positive chakra music from YouTube. So that was nice, you know, for the 15 minutes leading up to the exam, I was really calming down to that music, attracting positive energy, things like that. So that was just one of the things I did. Okay guys, it is about 7 minutes before the exam and I am a little nervous. I played some positive chakra music from YouTube to kind of get my nerves down a little bit. But here's my setup. I'm about to start the meeting and I pray for the best. Something else that really helped me was my collaborator messaged and said, you know, like, all the best. Just remember, we are on your side. And that really gave me comfort that, okay, these people are not going to really be examining me and I don't need to feel pressured. I need to understand that my committee members are on my side and they're just working with me. So I could reduce the pressure on myself a little bit, because after the presentation, we would have a closed room session where the committee members will now ask me more questions and try to break down the proposal and find any spots that don't really make sense or things that I should include. So that to me was also a little nerve-wracking, but I think the main nerve-wracking part was the presentation, like being in front of a lot of people and not messing up, essentially. So in terms of the presentation, I believe that it went well. At first, I was very, very nervous. You could hear it in my throat and I was like, calm down, calm down. I keep having to like remind myself to calm down while trying to remember my slides and read my notes. But you know, as the presentation moved on, because it's 50 minutes of talking, literally talking to people and not hearing any feedback or seeing any head shaking. So, you know, as that time progressed and you realize, okay, I have to sit here for 40 minutes anyway, you might as well get over the nerves and just focus on the presentation and act like you're just talking to yourself, essentially. Yeah, I went through the presentation all the way to the end. I think it went pretty okay. And, you know, in the end, 3 people asked questions from the general audience and I answered it to the best of my ability. It did feel a little qualifying exam-ish because you have to think on the spot and answer these questions in front of people. So, I mean, I do think I felt a little more prepared, especially having done the qualifying exam and feeling the nerves. So yeah, I think the PhD in that sense is progressing well in terms of the little milestones we have to do as we go along the way. So I definitely felt a little more prepared to answer questions in that setting because of the qualifying exam. So then once I answered those 3 questions from the general public, they were kicked out of the call and I met with my committee members only. And it was pretty chill. I mean, I felt like the questions were really insightful. Like sometimes I was just wondering, wow, you thought about this. You know, like, why didn't I think about this? But it just goes to show that, you know, this whole PhD process, they haven't gone through it before. So many years of work they put in. Like, they're just so smart, so intelligent to be able to like look at a project and be like, hey, why haven't you considered this aspect? And here am I thinking, oh, my project's so great. Like, my research is so great, but there may be a major flaw. So I really appreciated this whole process, you know, of the thesis proposal, because it really had me expand my basic thinking of just trying to get work and get results into really understanding, you know, how to provide accurate, reliable results in science, you know, things that are peer reviewed for impactful research. Even though some of the questions that my committee members asked me, I probably didn't really know the answer to. For those questions, I said, hey, that's a really great idea. That's a really good avenue to explore. I do think I can include it in my project somehow. So pretty much, yeah, if I couldn't really answer the question and I truly thought it was a good idea, I just, you know, basically expressed that, hey, yeah, that's absolutely a wonderful idea. Things like that. The questions that I could answer, I answered it to the best of my ability, but it wasn't as intense as a qualifying exam where I felt like, oh my God, I'm gonna fail, you know? So yeah, after they asked their questions, they asked me to put them in a breakout room. So I put them in a breakout room and essentially I was sitting down in the main room of this video call for about 10 minutes. And I guess they were discussing whether to pass me or not. So they came back in eventually and my advisor let me know that they all agree that I passed the exam or the proposal. So that was great. And yeah, it went by. It was intense. I wouldn't lie. It was a little intense, but I do think that preparation is key. You know, giving yourself enough time to prepare is really key for the thesis proposal, right? So to recap, set a date, apply some pressure, right? Give yourself enough time. You know how you work. I know I need a lot of time to get stuff organized and to change my mind and to change slides and make edits. So you know yourself, give yourself enough time. If you need 6 months, 6 months it is, right? If you know you work really fast paced, you need 3 weeks, then great, do that, right? Make sure to schedule some practices with people who know what you're doing and people who don't know what you're doing. And also practice a lot by yourself. I reviewed some, I looked it up on Google. I said, how many times should someone practice a presentation? And they said the lucky number is 10. So I practiced my presentation by myself, all 40 minutes of it or 50 minutes of it, at least 10 times, right? So I got very familiar with my slides. So if I messed up, if I forgot where I put a note, it was kind of like in the back of my head already. Save your drafts, save your code, multiple places, have everything backed up, and just go into the exam and be as calm as possible. Know that your committee members are on your side. You chose them, right? They are here to mold you and help your research project to grow and be awesome, right? So just be calm. And yeah, once your exam is over, you may not find out that you passed. You may have to wait. That's fine. But I do suggest to go and have some fun. Do not jump right back into work. I mean, if you have to, if that's what your advisor absolutely says, then sure. But if you have an advisor who understands, hey, you worked really hard, you could take a break, a day off, then please go do something fun. I was really, really happy that my 2 PhD friends and friends in life, they planned a little surprise event for me where they told me to get dressed in my bathing suit and meet at this location. So when I got there, they had this whole Love Island theme. They hired a private bartender. We were drinking, having fun, playing games. And yeah, it was really nice. It was really nice. So I came to the cast and crew of Love Island. We have a personal bartender. We have Queen Alexis, husband, Queen Elida. I can't wait to get started and meet the guys. I promised my advisor that I would write up all my code and have everything organized for her because she wanted to play around with the code a bit. But I just felt so tired. Like I really couldn't get myself to do anything. So I shouldn't have overpromised. I should have realized, hey, take at least a day or 2 now off after the thesis proposal because I've worked hard, right? I put in a lot of hours and even worked on the weekend sometimes to get it done. So my suggestion, take a day or 2 after the exam to cool down. Don't overpromise anybody anything and then ramp back up and start working at that feedback that you got from your committee members and really making your project blossom into something beautiful. So that is my advice for the PhD thesis proposal. If you have any additional questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. I am more than happy to help. I wish you a wonderful day and I will keep in touch. The next video I'm probably going to be posting on my internship or externship at Merck. And I will let you know how that's going and how it's really molding my decisions in terms of what I want to do for a career. So see you guys.